Okay, let's start. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Erica Garms with Working Smarts, and this is a recording that I'm making for primarily folks in the Facebook group, the private Facebook group, but also anybody who has liked the Working Smarts page also had an invitation to join in, so they'll be able to have access to this as well. And what I noticed when many of you filled out those two questions when you were trying to get into the Facebook group, one of the questions was, what would make your life better? And what do you struggle with? Something along those lines. And many of you said work-life balance, managing time, something around focusing better. And so I thought this might be a great topic to start off with. And just imagine that you're at a buffet, a fabulous buffet, and you're at the dessert table. And the dessert table has 5 or 6 different wonderful looking desserts, and you just want to try a little bit of each. So this will be like having a half a slice of the best cheesecake you can imagine. So it's not a full course, but I wanted to give you just a little really good meaty substance to use right away. And then if you want more like this, I can give you different slices of different desserts. So we'll start with this one. I'm going to share some slides with you. And let's see, I have to find where I do that. Here we go. So I'm going to share it, and you should be able to see the slides popping up. If you can't, please let me know. So again, this is a taste of a larger program that I do that's called Focus Smarts. And the idea is how to find, so first of all, find, then maximize, and then hold on to, sustain your focus at work when you want to and when you need to. So that's the idea behind this. And in case some of you aren't familiar with me or we haven't met in person yet, I'll just give you a 30-second intro to what I do and what this company is. So Working Smarts is the company that I founded in order to help develop healthy and high-performing workplaces. And I like to say it's not one at the expense of the other, which we too commonly see. So I do consulting, coaching, speaking, and writing. And I wrote the book that you see on your screen right now called The Brain-Friendly Workplace. And it has chapters on things like focus and mindfulness, civility in the workplace, other topics that make for what I call a brain-friendly or positive, very high-performing work environment. So one of the things I get asked about a lot is, how do I focus better at work when I need to or when I want to? And I think that a lot of us have this image of ourselves as our ideal image. You know, we want to be sitting, basking in the sunlight of a lovely office space with very few items on our desk. Of course, it's clean and organized. We are completely calm and composed and fully present in the moment. What I think we end up in reality looking more of the time is something like this. Yes, that's me, and yes, that's 2 of my 3 kids, and that was not posed. That was a real life moment that I was so amazed that it was happening at the moment that I caught a quick selfie of it, and it was the perfect way to describe not focus, okay? Feeling frazzled, overwhelmed, and you could insert coworkers or bosses in the place of one of those twins if you like. So the feeling is that you can't do everything, and you can't, or at least that you can't do it all well, and you can't do it all at the same time. One of the things that we know about the research on focus and attention is that on average at work, we're switching activities once every 3 minutes. Once every 3 minutes. And I don't mean like now I'm picking up my coffee mug and I'm taking a sip and that counts as an activity. It's using your brain in a different way for a different purpose. That's what switching activities means in this case. So we're doing that once every 3 minutes. So how in the world could we ever produce quality material or results or decisions when that's the case? We never get in far enough to true focus to produce anything that would be of the quality that we would wish. And because of that, then it's probably not going to surprise you to see that we lose about 20%. It's actually a little bit higher than that, about 23% of our work time each week. So then each month and each year, and that's on distractions. So you may have heard this before, but when you're distracted, either internally or from an external influence, it takes us on average 21 minutes to return to the thing that we were working on and be fully back and concentrating and focused on the place where we were before we got distracted. So when you add up all those minutes, because of all the distractions that we endure, that is how we end up losing about 23% of our work time each week, month, year. So now imagine if you were the person paying the salaries in your organization and you saw that statistic, you might be doing some quick math in your head. So you're basically losing a fifth of your salary spend, your salary expense per week, month, and year on distractions and focus. So it makes really good sense to teach people how to do it better. So I'm curious, how does the struggle to focus impact you? And if you can, in the chat, if you could, yeah, yikes is right. Yikes is right. If you could just type me a little message in the chat and let me know what's one of the ways that the struggle to focus impacts you. And it could be personal, it could be emotional, it could be performance related at work. It's up to you how you respond to that. But what's one way that it impacts you? I'll wait for the responses in the chat. And then while you're thinking, I'll tell you, one way it impacts me is that I get impatient and cranky because in my head, I'm trying to cover a lot of bases at once. So while my body might be here, I'm also thinking about what I have to do in 5 minutes, what I have to do in 2 hours, what I need to accomplish with family and household tonight. And all that's competing for space in the same area of my brain at the same time. That makes me cranky, and probably makes a lot of you cranky too. Okay. To add to our overwhelming crankiness, this is the kind of thing that we might run into if we're searching for tools or strategies on how to be more productive. Now, I'm going to let you just take a look at it for a moment. You see the little picture of the man doing this in the top center. So coming out from the man are the categories of productivity that you could be addressing. So there are technology-related strategies, clothes-related strategies, hacks, body, schedule, food, and mind. All of those categories have strategies for becoming more productive. However, if you're anything like me, when you look at this, you think, how can I do that all? And that in and of itself is overwhelming and stressful. And I would need to make a project plan, I think, just to try to actually do a few of those strategies. So that's not useful. I've got some things that I think will be useful. And the first one is this. I think you can stop beating yourself up for not being focused. So I know most of us at one point or another have sat in front of a journal or a piece of paper that we're supposed to be reading, or certainly our computer monitors, and read the same thing over and over and over again, or told ourselves, come on, I've got to do this task. Come on, focus. And we get down on ourselves and angry with ourselves for not being able to focus. And what we're saying is we are not focused or we are unfocused. And what I want to tell you in the next few minutes is that that is rarely true. It's that we slide our focus in and out of spots on this continuum that I'll show you a picture of. And all of those spots are good, and all of those spots are useful, and they're purposeful. So you can just drop that right now. You don't any longer have to beat yourself up for being unfocused, okay? I'll convince you, I'm pretty sure of that. So a couple things to know about what we're working with, the hardware we have to work with when we're talking about how we actually can focus. So our brain, actually our prefrontal cortex, that little gold area there, the gold area that the slide is pointing to is actually a thin layer just under your forehead, and that is the part of the brain that we rely on to do our executive thinking. Okay, so at work that means things like making judgments, negotiating, planning, making decisions, creating, inventing, innovating, all those kinds of skills that you do all the time at work. They all rely on that part of our brain. And it only represents 3% of our whole body mass, but it sucks up 20% of our energy. Why do I care? Why do you care right now? Because we shortchange it with food and water all the time. It's that simple. So it has the stores, the energy stores, once you've eaten a meal, to last you somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. For me, I've clocked it by now, and I know when I eat a meal, my prefrontal cortex has enough glucose stored to last me about 2 hours and 15 minutes. That means that by the time I'm in a first meeting, my stores might start to become depleted. And when that happens, we become irritable, possibly cranky, certainly distractible. It's harder for us to focus when we are not fueled, and we get fuzzy-headed. So all of those functions I told you about a few minutes ago, making decisions and creating, all those things have a much lower quality when we are depleted of energy. So if you're not a breakfast eater, or you're not a lunch eater, and you're not particularly good at drinking water throughout the day, that could be a place to start, an easy, low-hanging fruit kind of place to start to improve your focus, because you'll be fighting against your own biology if you're not handling the food and water issue right from the start. So more water throughout the day, frequent snacks, and meals are ideal, but at least frequent snacks. Okay, the next idea. Focus, like I said a minute ago, focus is not like on-off. It's not like a light switch. In fact, it is more like a continuum. And on the super focused end of the continuum, we call that state being in flow. And that's not my word, that's Csikszentmihalyi's word, and he has a book called Flow if you're interested. That is where we are so into what we're doing that we lose our sense of time, we lose tight connection with people around us or with our surroundings, our environment. That can become a problem if you're working with other people and they're trying to get your attention and you really might not hear them. It can be a problem if you're working on something for hours and hours and need to break that flow. But it can be a really good thing, because that is also when you do your most creative and most efficient kinds of work. Okay, let's go to the opposite end, and then I'll do the middle. So at the opposite end of focus, we have a state called drift. And drift is what it feels like when you're in the shower, when you're on a long car ride, so not just a 5-minute trip to Target where you're very aware of your surroundings and traffic and things like that. But this is where you're driving either a long trip or a calm, relaxing, uneventful trip. And your mind has the ability to wander. And sometimes you come up with things that you didn't even know you were thinking about, and you solve problems. Do you know that feeling? I get that a lot. In fact, since I know that's going to happen when I'm in that state, and I pretty much know that that state will happen when I'm on certain car rides, I will keep my phone handy, not to make videos or anything, but to record. So I have on my main screen on my phone, I have a record button, and I keep it very easy to find, so that when I'm driving and I get those brainstorm moments that I didn't plan on, I can just hit record and capture those, because a lot of them I want to do something with later. Sometimes I compose writing, blog articles, other pieces when I'm in that state. Okay, so between flow, extreme focus, and drift, fuzzy focus, there's a lot of space. And between the middle and flow end, that's called flexible focus. And you can pull yourself in and out of those areas at will. So if you must, yeah, the recording idea is really useful. Then you don't feel stressed about trying to remember it, because chances are you won't remember it anyway, and now you've just spent all that time on your ride stressing about the fact that you're trying to remember it. So yeah, just record it and get it out of there, and don't try to hold on to it, because you don't need to. You can use technology to help you. So this area of flexible focus is really key to know about, because you can get there, flow, when you need to. But here's the thing to remember about flow. You don't want to be in flow all the time. It's the most energy intensive, so energy draining place to be along that focus continuum. So you just can't spend 8 hours in a workday in flow. People would think you're strange because you would be really out of touch with them anyway. But you just can't maintain that kind of in-depth, narrow focus for a long period of time. And it's interesting because while you can help yourself get there, your body will monitor how long you can stay there, and then it will pull your focus out of flow when you start losing energy stores. So when you start to get, when you're feeling a harder time to stay in the flow state, it could be that you need a big glass of water and maybe a handful of almonds or something, and that can help. So here's another way to think about getting into focus. And I hope you can see this. Is this graphic big enough to read this text? I'm hoping. I can also email you this poster afterwards. You can print it out and make it into a poster if you like it, and if you want that at work.
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. So this is the model that I've created that I think really helps people get into focus or pull their focus to the right end of that continuum when they need to and when they want to, rather than just sitting there blaming yourself and getting angry that you're not focusing as you would like to. There's a procedure you can use to help yourself. So where I like to start is on external. And step one is to address the external distractions. And I'll go into more detail on each of these in a couple of minutes. Once you've addressed the external distractions, then step two is minimize. Okay, I don't fool myself into thinking that you could eliminate, completely abolish all the internal distractions, but at least we can try to minimize them. Once we've done that, step three is to direct your attention, because once you've gotten rid of these external and internal distractions to the extent you can, then there are lots of things we could think about and focus on. So we want to then direct our attention to the thing that we want to focus on for this period of time. And then lastly, step four is to sustain that attention. So, you can direct it, but then if your mind is still doing ping pong game inside, or if you're hungry and that need to eat keeps popping you out of that focus, then that's no good. You're not getting a result. So we need ways to sustain the attention as well. Okay, I'm going to also email you this. This is just a quick and dirty assessment that I created that goes along with that model that you just saw. So it's just 12 questions. There are instructions on it. You'll be able to score yourself for each of those things. So as an example, number one is, I struggle to precisely define my task and what the results should be. Okay, so you're going to give yourself a score, 1 to 5, and then at the end, you're going to divvy up your scores across those categories below. So at the bottom of those 12 questions, there are symbols that match with those each answer. And the symbol that is the highest score is the area on this 4-step model that you struggle with the most. Okay, so what I see people doing is, number one, blaming themselves, thinking that they have a problem or they are a loser because they can't focus. Number two, unfortunate thing that I see people struggle with is that they don't know specifically what it is about focusing that gives them the most trouble. So, they might be pulling for ideas that don't exactly match the need that they have. So that's what this will help you do, is identify which particular area of focus is the biggest challenge for you. And then we address just that area for you. And again, you're going to have this recording, and you can have all the slides if you like them too. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because this is a short, remember, this is a half a cheesecake slice here. It's not an in-depth course. So if you were to do step one and you're addressing external distractions, and this is your Achilles heel, this is what you struggle with most, you would be looking for things like, what am I sensing? Okay, what am I picking up on that I'm noticing? There's a little humming fluorescent light over my head. Yeah, if I really think about it, that thing is attracting my attention, and it is a bit of a distraction. Maybe there's too little light or not enough light in the area that you could really use some light in. Do you need to, shift your physical arrangement anymore? Do you want to adjust your footrest? Move your chair in certain ways? Close your door if you have a door. Put a sign out saying, please do not disturb right now. Something like that. Is there anything else that you can modify or block? And lastly, do you need anyone else to help you with this? So, depending on the work situation that you're in, you might need someone to cover phones. You might need someone to hold your calls. Whatever it is that would help you eliminate or address the external distractions. And if you can get help with it, great. So the second step is minimizing internal distractions. So this is, again, about distractions, but it's what's going on in here. So the first question to ask yourself is, what is going on in your head? What are the thoughts that are bouncing around in there? What are they about? Are you hungry or thirsty? Easy one to address. Easy. But you have to notice it in order to address it. What can you do to calm or energize yourself? So, sometimes, depending on the time of day, sometimes I want to calm myself in order to get ready to focus. Other times, if it's between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's often when I get the droopies. And that's when a lot of us get the droopies. So maybe then I would need to energize myself a bit more in order to help me get into focus. And then lastly, what is in your head that you looked at up here that you need to get out of your head before you start your task? I am such a huge proponent of not trying to hold on to anything when you don't need to. Clear it out. Keep it clear so that it functions most efficiently and you feel the least stress. So yeah, record things. Keep whatever your system is for list making. Maybe it's electronic, maybe it's paper. But get all that out so that you don't have little voices inside your head trying to remind you of things. Third area is then directing your attention. What is the task you want to focus on? Now that sounds so simple and plain, and it's not. I know if I get sloppy at my to-do list for the day, it might say, Omni campaign, which to me means something. But it doesn't say what I'm supposed to do. We get sort of sloppy in writing our to-do lists, make agenda, or work on that project. But what will help you more in focusing is moving on to the next bullet, the next question, which is, how would I describe the end goal for this period of focused attention? So it's not enough for me to write myself the to-do that says Omni campaign. What I should be doing is saying, write 3 ads, copy and images, and load them into Facebook Ad Manager, something like that. So that there's a defined ending and you know what your end goal is. And lastly, what materials do you need to support you? Oh, this is so aggravating, and we lose so much time here too when we finally get down to what the thing is that we're going to work on, and then we remember, oh, there's a book over there I need, and oh, there's something else in my tote bag out in the car that I need, and it distracts us and we lose time. So get everything you think you might need all together to help you focus and stay there. Okay, and then lastly, maintaining attention. When you start losing attention, ask yourself if you're losing clarity about the end result or end goal. And oftentimes as we start working on a project and we work towards what we think is the end, when we get closer, we realize, oh, actually it could be this or could be that, and I might need to check in with somebody else or verify something or get more information in order to get as clear as I see now that I need to be about that end result. So that could be the issue. Do you need to set a timer so you don't have to think about it or try to maintain some connection with the outside world when you don't want to? So use an electronic timer on your computer, use a watch, a digital watch, or of course your phone, so that you don't have to think about the time. And then lastly, do you need to modify the task or the goal? Maybe the way that you envisioned the task or the goal in the beginning, now that you've started to work on it, it needs to shift a little bit. That's not bad. That's not a mistake. It's that you've thought it through enough now to know that. I'm so glad this is really helpful. I'm really, really, really glad. So here's what you do. Those 4 steps that you go through, you scan. You scan from the outside in, and you repeat that. So when you're in this 4th phase of sustaining attention and you are working as close to flow as you can, when you start to feel yourself get pulled out of it, you go back up to the top. And something is distracting you. Something is pulling you out of flow. And if you want to stay there, then you need to go back and rescan from external to internal, and then redirect, and then back into sustain. Okay? Now, we're almost at 30 minutes. I'm going to give you just a couple more tidbits, and then I want to open it up for questions if you're interested. Okay. Some of the additional levers that you can adjust, the things that are variables in your life that you can adjust as needed to help you with your focus are what you see here. So these are good for everybody, right? Sleep. I can't think of a negative thing to say about sleep, unless you're sleeping too much, and then there's probably another issue which is causing that. But really good sleep is good for everyone, and that is what it's like your defrag process on your computer that it goes through probably when you're sleeping at night. Our brains are doing the same thing. So they're resetting, recharging for the next day. And so we need enough good sleep to get us energized and fully fueled for the next day. Of course, great nutrition, we touched on that. Exercise doesn't have to be hardcore exercise. You don't have to, be a step class teacher or something like that on the side. Just moving, just stretching, as many stretches as you can fit into a day, standing up some of the time. Sorry about that. Taking a walk around your building, walk around your office every hour, every 2 hours is wonderful. Mindfulness, that'll be a whole separate topic that we can dive into. But if you're interested in just a little teaser, I would go to mindful.org, mindful.org. That's a fabulous place to start learning about mindfulness if it's new to you. And then stress management techniques, of course, there are many. So those are good things for everybody. Good things for some people are mental stimulation. I love, love, love puzzles. Any kind of puzzle. Could be a tangible puzzle or just a brain puzzle. Sudoku, crosswords, anything like that is hugely satisfying to me, and it helps me direct my attention. It calms me and it helps me focus. So for me, that works really well. For other people, that would be the opposite of what you'd want to do. So you have to know that yourself. Same with human connection. Some people need more of that. Some people actually need less of that. And you'll know for you what's best. Finally, structure and routines. When I was writing my first book, I tried to say from 8 till 10 p.m. every night, and then from a certain time in the morning to a certain time, I will write. I will write. Darn it. And it did not work. I think I felt myself fighting my own routine, even though I made it up. I just didn't want a routine about it. So instead, I dropped that, stopped beating myself up for it, and I decided whenever I feel the urge, I'm going to go, and I'm going to put everything else aside, and I'm going to go with that urge and that focus as long as I can milk it. So for me, that's what worked, and it worked with my work life. So it might work for some of you and not others. But anyway, these are 3 things, levers that you can adjust to help you focus that you might not have considered before that you can use. And then very quickly, there's something, I think we should spend another half hour on this sometime as well, called attention deficit trait. So this is not a medical diagnosis. This is not attention deficit disorder. This is a trait that some scholars have noticed that starts outside and then it seeps into us, into our lives, and into our bodies like a virus. And our behavior becomes a habit, and then guess what? Habits actually change our brain. So if you're interested in that attention deficit trait, you can measure the extent to which you're suffering from that with this other quick and dirty assessment, and I'm happy to send this to you as well. So depending on how many of these you check, there's a little scoring guide at the bottom that will tell you what you're dealing with. I am going to skip the next parts because these really go into how we use our time at work. And I want to do a whole separate thing on how we use our time because I think it's worth it. Okay, what's one thing that you learned that you enjoyed or that's thought-provoking or that you want to remember? If you could tell me, either unmute yourself and just say it out loud or type it in the chat if you would.
The steps to focus, I think, are a big thing for me. And also that ADT chart was like, oh my God, that is me.
Yes, unfortunately, it's most of us.
Jeez, gosh.
Yeah, it's a real physiological response to the kind of world that we live in. And you know, the longer that we live in it, the more used to it we get. And so we don't recognize sometimes how severe it is until we stop and do an assessment like that to say, you know, just how severe it has gotten for us individually. Yeah. Good. I'm glad that those steps
Awakening moment for me, I think.
What was that?
The chart was an awakening moment for me.
Oh, well, that's positive and negative both, I suppose.
Right.
Awareness is always good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. That was a half an hour. And I told you it would be a half an hour, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. If you like this kind of quick deep dive, I can do zillions of these. So let me know what topics you might want to hear about. There's certainly more right here with focus that we didn't cover that we can do another one on. So I think I would probably start there and do another next week.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great. Would you be able to send me the email and the charts of this clip as well, if you can, the recording of it, or you're going to post it?
I'll also put that in the Facebook group.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay.
For that. And would you mind, you can chat to me privately, would you mind giving me your email address? And then I can send you the PDFs of those 2 assessments.
Should I do this in this chat or?
Yeah, you can do it in this chat. Nobody will see it except me.
Okay, I'm going to put it in right now.
Super.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.